Republican Elliott Engel has no plan for Minnesota. See why he is the wrong choice for State House.
Hai Tony thật nha. Sắp bắt sóng rồi, 8 giờ, còn 5 phút nữa mọi người ơi.
Please welcome the first print journalist to be the solo moderator of one of the general election debates, Washington Bureau Chief of USA Today, Susan Page.
Welcome. And congratulations, you have scored the most exclusive tickets in the United States. Hamilton has nothing on the Commission on Presidential Debates when it comes to exclusive tickets. I want to offer a special welcome to Vice President Pence's family.
Tôi muốn chào đón Phó Tổng thống Mike Pence.
Kamala Harris's family on this side, and most especially to my bosses who are seated right up there, and I'm very glad that they came.
Sếp của tôi ngồi ngay đây.
We're glad that you're here, but this debate is not about you, and it's not about me. It's about the millions of Americans who are going to be watching it.
Cái cuộc tranh luận này không phải cho tôi, không phải mà cho những người Mỹ. Làm ơn đừng nói, đừng cười, vì sẽ làm phân tán mọi người ở đây.
I'm going now to come and get settled and turn my back to you, but not in a rude way, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks again for being here.
Cuộc tranh luận hôm nay, tối hôm nay là được tổ chức ở tiểu bang Utah. Xíu nữa đúng giờ Vân đổi qua bên chỗ kênh của bác Tổng thống Donald Trump coi bộ nó ok hơn mọi người. Fox News sợ dính bản quyền lắm. Chắc phải kê cái máy cao lên xíu nhỉ. Lần đầu làm chuyện này cả nhà ơi, cả nhà ủng hộ em nha. Oh. Oh, not right. Chào bạn Du Dương Cần Thơ nhé. Thank you. Hiện tại bây giờ trên kênh YouTube của bác Tổng thống Donald J. Trump hơn 1,2 triệu người đăng ký, là có hơn 5.200 người đang đợi. Người điều phối chương trình hôm nay là một bà. I've been a long way place you inside my mind. And in my dreams I kiss your lips 1,000 times. I sometimes see you pass outside my door. Hello, is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in your smile.
From the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, welcome to the first and only Vice Presidential Debate of 2020, sponsored by the Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm Susan Page of USA Today. It is my honor to moderate this debate, an important...
Tôi là Susan Kay. Đây là cuộc tranh luận duy nhất dành cho Phó Tổng thống ở Đại học Utah.
We've taken extra precautions during this pandemic. Among other things, everyone in the audience is required to wear face masks, and the candidates will be seated 12 feet apart. The audience is enthusiastic about their candidates, but they've agreed to express that enthusiasm only twice, at the end of the debate, and now, when I introduce the candidates. Please welcome California Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence.
Phó Tổng thống Mike Pence và Thượng nghị sĩ Kamala Harris.
Senator Harris and Vice President Pence, thank you for being here. We're meeting as President Trump and the First Lady continue to undergo treatment in Washington after testing positive for COVID-19. We send our thoughts and prayers to them for their rapid and complete recovery and for the recovery of everyone afflicted by the coronavirus. The two campaigns and the Commission on Presidential Debates have agreed to the ground rules for tonight. I'm here to enforce them on behalf of the millions of Americans who are watching. One note, no one in either campaign or at the Commission or anywhere else has been told in advance what topics I'll raise or what questions I'll ask. This 90-minute debate will be divided into 9 segments of about 10 minutes. I'll begin a segment by posing a question to each of you, sometimes the same question, sometimes a different question on the same topic. You will then have 10 minutes to answer.
Thỉnh thoảng chúng ta có cùng câu hỏi nhưng thỉnh thoảng lại câu hỏi lại khác nhau dành cho hai ứng viên.
At that point, although there will always be more to say, we'll move on to the next topic. We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil. These are tumultuous times, but we can and will have a respectful exchange about the big issues facing our nation. Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much. Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption. Thank you, Susan.
Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential debate.
Bản gốc mất tiếng mọi người ơi. Bản gốc mất tiếng mọi người.
Over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. On January 28th, the Vice President and the President were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a
Mọi người biết corona, ý là tổng thống và phó tổng thống biết về coronavirus rất là sớm, nhưng mà cover it up, che đậy nó.
if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan.
Và cho đến tận ngày hôm nay không có giải thích.
And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we
Kế hoạch của tôi và Joe Biden là sẽ có vaccine miễn phí cho tất cả mọi người.
and Joe Biden is the best leader to do that, and frankly, this
Joe Biden là một người lãnh đạo the best, tuyệt nhất.
Thank you, Senator.
I doubt it.
Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris,
Cảm ơn Đại học Utah đã chủ trì cái cuộc tranh luận này.
our nation's gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before the
Tổng thống Trump luôn đặt cái sức khỏe của người dân Mỹ trên hết.
all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to
Tôi tin rằng quyết định của Tổng thống đã cứu được cả 100.000 người.
we were able to see
Ý là ông ấy nhắc đến cái lệnh cấm China mọi người.
they needed. And we began really before the month of February was ours to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics and saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe will have literally
Ông ấy nói là vào tháng 2 năm nay là đã tiến hành cái vụ xử lý virus này rồi.
And it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. And quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism.
Ông ấy nói về PPE, tức là cái thiết bị bảo hộ cá nhân á,
I think
là đã có từ rất là sớm.
this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices.
Tôi tin ở tận trong trái tim của tôi.
Senator Harris.
I
Hành động của Tổng thống đã cứu được nhiều mạng người.
the vice president is claiming the administration has done. Clearly, it hasn't worked. When you're looking at over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss.
Khi mà chúng ta nhìn lại hơn 200 mạng người Mỹ đã chết thì đó là một cái mất mát.
And knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward, we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's
So
go
I
about
Khi mà nó bùng nổ thì Tổng thống lại nói với mọi người rằng hãy bình tĩnh.
Yep, you can have 15 more seconds, and then we'll give the Vice President a chance.
So I want to ask the American people, how calm were you when you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school go back. How calm
Thank
were
you.
you
Thank
when
you,
your
Senator
children
Harris.
couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill them?
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance to respond. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to
You know,
respond.
there's not a day gone by that I
Ông
haven't
có 1 phút để đáp lại.
And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers. But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice. The sacrifices the American people have made. But the reality, if I may finish there, the reality is Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, but Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March. They said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose
Dr. Fauci nói với Tổng thống là shut down,
That's the reality.
Thank you.
They also said to us,
đóng cửa toàn bộ, quý vị.
right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice
Now,
President
one
Pence.
life lost is too many, Susan. But the American people, I believe, for the sacrifices that they have made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people do.
Vice President Pence, you were in the front row in a Rose Garden event 11 days ago at what seemed
Bản gốc bị treo rồi mọi người ơi. Rất là nhiều cái comment, trong đó là có Pence năm 2024, thả tim này, Trump 2020, stop chatting, Pence doing well.
repercussions from this pandemic. In recent days, the president's diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance of the job that you hold and that you are seeking. That's our second topic tonight. It's the role of the vice president. One of you will make history on January 20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization.
Tổng thống Trump thì 74 mà ông Joe Biden thì 78, đó là mối quan tâm của cử tri.
Or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move on
well,
to the
thank
issue
you,
of...
but I would like to go back because the reality is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year. We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trial. And we're right
Chúng ta đang có 5 công ty
So
về sản xuất vaccine.
continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine. If the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives. The reality
Tôi muốn nói với mọi người rằng đừng có chơi game với chính trị trên cái mạng người nữa.
Countless American lives and your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is it's just unacceptable. And let me also say, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was Vice President of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted swine flu.
Khi mà ông Joe Biden còn làm phó tổng thống, 60 triệu người nhiễm cúm. Nếu như Joe Biden mà làm tổng thống thì chắc mất tới 2 triệu mạng người.
They left the strategic national stockpile empty, followed the plan, but we still learn from it. And I think the American people, I'm going to say again, can be proud of what we have done. And Senator, please stop undermining confidence in a vaccine.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Nếu mà bà thắng cuộc bầu cử tới, bà sẽ làm gì?
Actually a Zoom call. Asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19.
Tôi nghĩ về mẹ của tôi, người mà đã đến Mỹ khi 19 tuổi. Sinh tôi California. Bây giờ tôi có thể ngồi ở đây là đã khiến bà ấy tự hào. Tôi và Joe Biden được nuôi dưỡng lớn lên cùng một cách. Sẽ chiến đấu cho mọi người. Bà ấy đang nói về lịch sử của bà ấy. Làm luật sư, chiến đấu cho những người da đen.
Everything from transnational criminal organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee where I've been in regular receipt of classified information.
Tôi dành lợi thế cho những người da đen và cho những người lính.
And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a purpose about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we have seen of Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Neither President Trump nor Vice President Biden has released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each of you in turn is this information voters deserve to know? Vice President Pence, would you like to go first?
Tôi muốn hỏi cả hai quý vị là cái điều gì mà cử tri cần biết.
Let me say, on behalf of the President and the First Lady, how moved we've all been by the outpouring of prayers and concern for the President. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus. But the care the President received at Walter Reed Hospital, the White House doctors, was exceptional. And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue. The American people have a right to know about the health and well-being of their President, and will continue to do that. But I'm just extremely grateful and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions of genuine concern. And I also want to congratulate
Chào bác
you,
Phương Nam nhé.
as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination.
Họ nói nhanh quá, họ không có ngừng, mà nếu mà bây giờ mà Vâng nói nữa là Vâng lại không nghe được câu tiếp theo.
I know the feeling, but the reality is we've got an election before the American people in the midst of this challenging year, and the stakes have never been higher.
Thank
I
you,
think the choice has never been
Yes,
clearer.
I want to give Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates, and especially about presidents, especially when they're facing some kind of challenge?
Absolutely, and that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the president has not, both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes. We now know, because of great investigative journalism, that Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes. When I first
Tổng thống trả $750 cho thuế.
and it was like, no, $750. We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt for $400
Tổng thống Trump nợ
So everyone is clear, when we say
400
in debt,
triệu đô la.
we owe money to somebody. And it'd be really good to know who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American
Mọi người nên biết rằng một vị tổng tư lệnh của Hoa Kỳ nợ tiền.
decisions. And is he making those decisions on the best interest of the American people, of you, or self-interest? So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over many, many years. The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there.
Joe ở đây đã quá lâu, mọi người đều biết ông ấy.
But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about covering up everything.
Thank you, Senator.
Nhưng Trump ở một phía khác và che đậy cả mọi thứ.
Look, I respect the fact that Joe Biden spent 47 years in public life. I respect your public service as well. The American people have a president
Tôi tôn trọng cái sự phục vụ của ông ấy quá lâu.
who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes.
Một thương gia và ông ấy đã trả cả chục triệu tiền thuế.
Public reports are not accurate. And the president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures the American people can review just as the law allows. But the distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience.
So sánh ông Joe Biden làm 47 năm.
Cutting taxes, rolling back regulation,
Thank you,
unleashing
Vice
American
President.
energy, fighting for free and fair trade, and all of that's
Thank
on
you,
the
Vice
line
President
if
Pence.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a
are
good
in the White
segue into our third
Great
topic,
segue.
which is about the economy. This has been another aspect of life for Americans. It's been so affected by
Bây
this
giờ đang nói về cái sự
coronavirus. We have a
ảnh hưởng
jobs
đến đời
crisis.
sống của người Mỹ.
On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos, blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy.
Nó nói về những người Latino,
By raising
người
$4 trillion
Latin,
in
gốc
taxes
Latin.
on wealthy individuals and corporations. Some economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted. Thank you.
On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the health and the strength of the American worker and the American family. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing, which is why he passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America, leading to a $2 trillion deficit that the American people are going to have to pay. On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people. And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump said he would do. I remember hearing about some infrastructure week. I don't think it ever happened. But Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in infrastructure.
Donald Trump nói những cái điều mà nó sẽ không bao giờ xảy ra.
Clean energy and renewable energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science.
Joe Biden đầu tư vào năng lượng sạch, tin tưởng vào khoa học.
Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So, for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family,
ví dụ như ai mà muốn đi học 2 năm ở community thì sẽ được miễn phí.
We'll make sure that if you have student loan debt, it's cut by $10,000. That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country.
Khoản nợ của sinh viên,
which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
But the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. So when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy. President Trump cut taxes across the board. Despite what
Tổng thống Trump giảm thuế.
The average American family of 4 had $2,000 in savings and taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hard-working Americans,
gia đình Mỹ tiết kiệm được cả $2,000 tiền thuế.
But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes. It's really remarkable to think.
Mọi người nghe là ông Joe Biden sẽ tăng thuế. Đã đem trở lại 11.600 triệu việc làm sau cái cuộc khủng hoảng.
We literally have spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of.
Joe Biden muốn tập trung vào Green New Deal, tức là cái chương trình năng lượng sạch các mọi người của cái cô mà gọi là AOC nhí.
Joe Biden wants to go back to economic surrender to China. That when we took office, half of our
và Joe Biden muốn trở lại với Trung Quốc.
Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy.
Tổng thống Trump chiến đấu cho những công nhân Mỹ.
The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot. With 4 more years of growth and opportunity, 4 more years of President Donald Trump. 2021 is going to be the biggest economic year in the history of this country.
Chúng tôi hứa hẹn là sau cái cuộc bầu cử này là công việc sẽ tăng vọt. Joe Biden nói rất là rõ là không tăng thuế.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Tôi đang nói ông Phó Tổng thống ạ.
Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year.
That is absolutely not true.
Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay.
Ông hãy để tôi nói hết đó rồi chúng ta sẽ có một cái cuộc nói chuyện sau.
On anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He's been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He's been very clear about that. Joe Biden is the one who, during the Great Recession, was responsible for the Recovery Act that brought America back. And now the Trump-Pence administration wants to take credit.
Joe Biden đang có một cái act dự luật về recovery.
But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who for the Affordable Care Act, which otherwise we're going bankrupt because of hospital bills they could not afford. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act.
Tổng thống Trump đang cố để hủy bỏ cái Obamacare. Vì ông Phó Tổng thống làm gián đoạn tôi cho nên là tôi mất thời gian và bây giờ tôi muốn nói hết.
They're coming for you.
Senator Harris, thank you. Let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people remember it well. President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing conditions for every American. But look, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today, said...
Joe Biden chỉ thẳng vào và nhấn mạnh là sẽ tăng thuế và làm cái vụ Green New Deal.
Is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The V-shaped recovery that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump.
Chúng tôi sẽ làm cho cái đường là tăng trưởng là nó hình chữ V. Bây giờ nói đến biến đổi khí hậu.
This year we've seen record-setting hurricanes in the south. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly, and have made hurricanes wetter, slower, and more damaging? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation. According to all of the best estimates, our air and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. Our water is among the cleanest in the world. And just a little while ago, the President signed the Outdoors Act, the largest investment in our public lands and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation. Now, with regard to climate change, the climate is changing. The issue is, what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in the Paris Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal, which would crush American energy, would increase the energy costs of American families in their homes, and literally would crush American jobs. President Trump and I believe that the progress that we have made in a cleaner environment has been happening precisely because we have a strong free market economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States has reduced CO2 more than the countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it through innovation, and we've done it through natural gas and fracking, which, Senator, the American people can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking. And so by creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires, President Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center, and even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than there were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate
Mọi người ơi, cũng khá lâu rồi. Thôi em xin out nha. Chào K News nha.
Senator Harris, as the Vice President mentioned, you co-sponsored the Green New Deal in Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal. But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework.
Mới gần đây Joe Biden nói là không có hỗ trợ Green New Deal nữa, nhưng mà nhìn trên cái website thì nó lại có.
Green New Deal. You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So, first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a fact.
Joe Biden sẽ không có ngưng cái fracking là cái chương trình mà gọi là như là khai thác khoáng sản để có năng lượng, ví dụ như là than đá nè. Joe Biden sẽ không có ban, không có cấm cái chuyện đó.
Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe
Đang nói về cái vụ cháy rừng. Nghĩa là chúng ta phải tập trung để bảo vệ môi trường sống. Những người nông dân ở Iowa
on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website?
Chúng ta có trách nhiệm với môi trường. Khí hậu đang thay đổi. Họ không có tin tưởng vào khoa học.
Donald Trump, when asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, you know, the science is telling us this. You know what Donald Trump said? Science doesn't know. So let's talk about who is prepared to lead our country over the course of the next 4 years on what is an existential threat to us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan.
Joe có cái kế hoạch cho đến năm 2050.
Senator Harris just said that climate change is an existential threat. Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
Ông có tin là thay đổi khí hậu sẽ làm cho
Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American.
Kamala Harris là từ chối cái chuyện là tăng thuế.
Those tax cuts delivered $2,000 in tax relief to the average family of 4 across America. And with regard to banning fracking, I just recommend that people look at the record. You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking. You were the first Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal.
Hi, Music Candy. Hi, Nicky John.
The Green New Deal is on their campaign website.
Green New Deal rất là rõ ràng trong cái website chiến dịch.
just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look, the American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American businesses and American families. Joe Biden wants us to retrofit 4 million American business buildings. It makes no sense. It will cost jobs. President Trump is going to put America first. He's going to put jobs first, and we're going to take care of our environment and follow the science.
But, on the issue of jobs, Senator Harris, let's talk about that. The Vice President earlier referred to, as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment, the President's trade war with China. You lost that trade war. You lost it. What ended up happening is because of a so-called
Tổng
trade war
thống
with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing
có
jobs.
chiến tranh thương mại với Trung Quốc và mất rất là nhiều
Have
việc làm.
experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at where this administration has been, there are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration. And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know, I think about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old who are coming out of high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for me? We're looking at
Những cái người mà 20 tuổi mà tốt nghiệp đại học là sẽ thắc mắc là job ở đâu? Có thể tìm việc ở ngay đây không? Ở cái đất nước này không?
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to
Tổng
respond.
thống Trump là thất bại trong cái việc lãnh đạo này.
Lost the trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China through over the last several decades. And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts.
Joe Biden chào đón Trung Quốc từ bao nhiêu năm nay.
President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, this administration saw 500,000 manufacturing jobs created. And that's exactly the kind of growth we're going to continue to see as we bring our nation through this pandemic. With a Green New Deal, your massive new mandates, your Paris Climate Accord, it's going to kill jobs this time just like it killed jobs.
I just need to respond very quickly.
15 seconds.
Thank you. Joe Biden is responsible for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it. So let's set the record straight. Thank you.
I'd like to talk about China. We have, as our next topic, we have no more complicated or consequential foreign relations than the one with China. It is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea. And in a video tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence, how would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan.
Ông nói gì về Trung Quốc, là kẻ thù hay cái gì đó?
Voting rights, if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south where President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. The United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land.